Good to see you, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening, this afternoon, for this workshop with Arweave. I know we've been eagerly anticipating this one. We have both Seb and Cedric with us to give both the kind of general overview of Arweave and kind of go into some technical stuff. We'd like to have them both and good friends of ours at Encode. As I say, if you have questions, do put them into chat. George is going to paste general resources for you about the hackathon. I'm sure you'll have the hacker pack and all the other event information, all the challenge information. We are into the second half, i.e. the building half of the hackathon, and so we're very much hoping you build some fantastic stuff, particularly with Arweave. Seb, I believe you're going to be starting, so handing over to you to please tell us more.
Sure, happy to be here, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. We're super excited to have Arweave part of Hack Africa. And if you have any questions besides posting them on the chat here, you can also head out to the Discord channel that we have specifically for Arweave and Hack Africa, and we'll be happy to help you out there. All right, let's get started. I'm here joined today by Cedric. Cedric is a community member, long-time community member, who is also turned into a founder in the ecosystem and is also one of our star developer advocates. So I'm very happy to have Cedric here. We're going to be telling you the basics of what you can do with Arweave, and then Cedric is going to be telling you a little bit of like how you can build your perma-web app on Arweave, which is a simple enough process. At the same time, we're running the Open Web Foundry #4, which is a program that, for those of you who successfully complete the task that we have presented for this for Hack Africa, will be eligible to join that as well. So a little bit more information on that later over Discord. But for now, let's get started with Arweave. For those of you who don't know what Arweave is or what you can use Arweave for, Arweave is a protocol that allows you to have permanent storage, pay once, store forever, and it's also immutable. What that all means is that with Arweave, you can post a transaction. It has its own type of blockchain, it's a block weave, and then on Arweave, it gets basically no longer change whatever you stored there. Arweave, one of the key features of Arweave is that it's pay once, and then store forever. That means that, let's say you want to store your UI or your website on Arweave, and then for some reason, you forget to pay something. That's not going to go down. It's also, you're not going to have 404 type errors. Once it's been deployed, it will stay there constantly and in the same way that you deployed it the first time around, which has a couple of very useful applications. So the first one is with Arweave, you pay for write actions, not read actions. So let's say I deploy this website or my perma-web application on Arweave, then I don't have to pay more as usage of said application increases. Normally, you have to pay when something becomes very popular because you're paying for serving it. On Arweave, that is not the case, right? So anyone that interacts with your website pays a little bit to write into it, but if you're just recalling it, if you're just recording the perma-web application, you do not need to pay. This allows you as a developer to not have to incur in so many costs as your perma-web application or your website is being recalled. That's the first one. The second one is you can have multiple UIs running at the same time, right? This is part of the consumer integrity features that Arweave allows you to have. Let's say, and we all know the problem of you have an application that has been published, you're using it, you really like it, and then the team behind that application decides, you know what, I'm going to upgrade this application. I'm going to do something different. And all of a sudden, it doesn't behave in the way that you're used to. You don't like it. Some things that the team behind it thinks are improvements for you, perhaps as a user, they are not. Okay, well, now you're faced with the uncomfortable reality that you're not going to be able to use that version any longer because it's not going to be supported. That's not the case with Arweave. With Arweave, you as a developer can publish multiple versions of the same application, and they will all keep working. You can just reroute to the newest one that you care about, right? So you connect your URL to the version that you have stored in Arweave, and that will work. But if I, as a user, prefer to use the old one, that's no problem. I can still use the old one, and that way you're not going to be losing people or users that simply don't like the newest version. So that's another very useful feature of Arweave. Now, another useful feature of Arweave is that because whatever you store in Arweave is stored in that way, and you cannot alter it. That gives you many different applications in terms of immutability and verification of something that you stored at a specific time is the way that you stored it the first time, right? So if you think about, let's say, some applications could be documents, right? So verifying that a document is the way that it should be, that it's the true document, that it's not another version of it. That can be done on Arweave. Another very popular application of Arweave at the moment is NFTs. With NFTs, you can show that this file that you stored is actually the file that you say it is, right? It cannot be another one. It's the right one every single time. So this is something that immutability offers you in Arweave. And perhaps one of the key sort of enabling factors for Arweave is that we have an endowment structure. And this endowment basically allows for you to pay once to store the information that you want on Arweave, and then because of the decreasing cost of storage over time, this initial payment that you conducted will amortize the expense of storage in Arweave for hundreds of years. So you don't have to worry about keep paying for something. Your users don't have to be worried about, oh, what happens if they stop paying, the AWS bill or something, or if someone forgets in your team to pay AWS bills. Well, that's never going to go offline. Arweave is always going to be available for you there. So those are just a few of the applications that you can have on Arweave. And for the rest, for the more technical aspects of it, I hand over to Cedrik. Hi, Cedrik.
Hey, Seb. Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to add a little bit more on pretty much all the information that Seb just gave you guys. So yeah, Arweave is in its own blockchain. So it's not something on top of Ethereum or something on top of Bitcoin or something else. It's its own blockchain. And you can think of for Arweave as a huge database. So it has a lot of information stored there, which are web pages, JavaScript code, images, videos, music, pretty much anything can be stored on top of Arweave. And it can be served on the browser if the browser accepts it. So for example, you can have an entire web page. I just saw someone asking a question here. If they could deploy a React application on top of Arweave, which interacts with Ethereum. Yeah, you can do that. So you can store an entire web page with all its CSS, JavaScript, HTML, a framework like React, for example, and then store all the web page on top of Arweave, which you pay for writing. So you pay to deploy the content once, and then it's stored forever. So that web page, that transaction ID that you will receive, will be accessible forever. So that's why on the other part, Seb mentioned that you can have multiple versions of it. It's because you can have, for example, on community, one of my projects, people create communities on top of Arweave by using smart Weave contracts, which are similar to Ethereum smart contracts, but very different at the same time. So the work they do, it's pretty much the same one, but it's stored on top of Arweave and it's written in JavaScript. There are other tools now that exist, so you are able to write it in other languages, but the main one is JavaScript at the end. So yeah, and with that, for example, I have a UI where people can create their own profit sharing communities, which is a smart Weave contract. And then, for example, if I want to change my UI, I'm able to change it, to renew it, to have a new design. For example, let's say that now the most popular thing on the web, it's to have the entire page in strong red and everything is red. Okay, so I create that new UI and someone else doesn't like it. They can just go to the old transaction ID and be able to access the same page with the same content, but in another UI. And that's another possibility also. You can store pretty much everything on top of Arweave, which includes the database. So the data that you store on top of your web page, your project, can be also stored on top of Arweave. So yeah, that opens many possibilities, which, as Seb mentioned, you have many options out there and many ideas that you can come up with them just because of having a huge database that you can, in fact, not just gather your own information, but also gather information from another project, another UI, another interface, another entire project that someone else created. For example, let's say that you want to create a new community UI. You can just create the UI and go and grab all the information that people store already on Arweave and that people will be storing on Arweave on top of your new UI. So you are able to access pretty much the entire data that I own. You also can interact with it, show it differently, having something else on top of it if you want to, by using versioning, for example. So yeah, one of the questions that we get a lot is that people say, okay, if I deploy this image, I'm not going to be able to change it ever. Yeah, that's correct. You're not able to change that specific image ever, but you are able to create a new version. So when we think about updates on top of Arweave, these are versioning, in fact. So the old version is still there, the new one will be shown also, and then you can change, for example, on your UI or on your SmartWeave contract, which that one can change over time. The old data will still be on the blockchain, but on how it works, it allows you to change the state of a SmartWeave contract. So you can simply go and change the transaction ID for that image. For example, on community, we have logos. Every project is able to add their own logo, and then they can just go update the state. So set the new transaction ID for the logo, and then they are able to show the new logo. Well, still the old logo is accessible. So if there's a mistake on the new one or they don't like it anymore, they can just go back, grab the old transaction ID for that logo, and then change the logo to the new one. So yeah, on the technical aspect, that's how it works for the blockchain. That's how it works for the SmartWeave contracts also. And yeah, that already brought many applications that already exist. For example, Arweave to store files. You have ARKB to deploy entire web pages or entire folders. It doesn't need to be web pages, but the main use of it is for entire web pages because it creates a path, a special path that allows you to go, for example, to arweave.net -transaction ID -index.html or CSS main.css, something like that. So you are able to access all the files that you have in one project by just using one of the tools, which deploys the content on the perma web. So yeah, I don't know, Seb, if you want me to show a little code just to.
Yep, I think that would be
okay.
Great. People are asking about it in the chat already, so that would work great.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. And share screen. Oh, I'm not able to share the screen right now.
Let me fix that. Sorry.
Thank you.
That's normally the first thing I do. It should be working now.
Thank you. Okay, so here we have a simple to-do list that we created. Let me hide this. So it's just a simple HTML, simple web 2.0, simple normal web that we all know, with a file, a TypeScript file. In this case, I'm using Parcel. That's why I'm able to just import the main CSS file here. But yeah, on your case, you just use what you are used to. You don't need to use Parcel or anything else. In fact, you can just go with normal HTML, not using any frameworks or anything at all. And in this case, I'm using jQuery to grab the items I submit to the to-do and to show them. So let me start the server. So yeah, as you can see, I add something here. Whoops, I add something here, and it keeps adding it in the file. If I refresh the page, everything is lost, like normally, because we aren't storing anything anywhere. So let me turn it off. Let me go to Arweave. Okay, so here we added a few extra things. Let me just show this entire thing. Okay, so we added Arweave, which is the Arweave.js library. So Arweave has an entire API on top of it. You are able to access it by doing normal HTTP requests. So you are able to create your own SDK, let's say, on any language that you like. If you want to go on PHP to store data for a WordPress site, for example, you can do that. If you want to go with Go, you can do that too, and pretty much any other tools. But on JavaScript, which is the main language that it's used on top of Arweave because of the possibilities of creating a perma web app, so JavaScript is the most used one. We already created many tools, the community and the core team also. For example, here Arweave.js is created by the core team, but we have tools, for example, like RConnect, which interacts with wallets that was created by a community member. ARDB was created by me, and many other tools that exist that are already created for you to easily interact with the permaweb, with the Arweave network, and with all the data that it has on top of it. So another thing here, I initialize Arweave. So it's very simple to start working with Arweave from getting from the Web 2.0 to a Web 3.0. So we have here Arweave, we initialize. Right now, I'll be using RLocal, which is another tool that allows you to test your web pages and all of that by creating a local instance of Arweave, a very tiny one, very light one. So it doesn't have all the endpoints created, and it doesn't have the exact functionalities and an entire Arweave node or Arweave gateway. But for the use of testing, it works very well. So we will be using RLocal. So I initialize it to localhost, and the port normally on a node, it's 1984, and the protocol will be HTTP. Then we have here ARDB. We will be looking at ARDB just in a bit, but right now let's just focus on Arweave. So here I have a few things for ARDB, but here I have the same function I was calling before. So to get an item and to add it to the to-do list. So all you need to do, all you need to have, other than that we had before, is that we have something like this. We grab the value and then we add it to the list, and that's it. So right now we have these few lines. So we create a transaction with Arweave, Arweave.create transaction, and we send data. On Arweave, you are able to send data, or you are able to send funds, send tokens to someone else. So that's a transfer. In this case, we want just to send data. And then we create tags. The tags for transactions are special parameters on top of Arweave, which allow you to grab that content after. So for example, here I create a tag with the app name. This is a default. We have some defaults, for example, app name, app version, and content type. The content type is used to what the browser will serve. So it's very important to set the content type if you need to show, for example, an image, an HTML page, something like that. In this case, it's only text, so we don't need to send something special as a content type. And instead of just using to do, which might be used by someone else, and I don't want to grab that content, I just set some random numbers in there. So to do 224466. With that, you already have a transaction. Then what you need to do is to sign that transaction. So you do arweave.transactions.sign. You send the transaction that you just created, and that transaction is signed with your wallet, your personal wallet. Something important here. Here I'll be using Arconnect, which is a browser extension. So normally you will need to send here the wallet key file like this, for example. But in this case, since we are using Arconnect, which is a community built tool that in fact I recommend, it's faster to build with Arconnect than grabbing the wallet key file from someone. They need to drag and drop it. So yeah, sure, you can use it. And in that case, you don't need to send anything because Arconnect will take care of that. Then the next thing, after signing, here too, normally when you sign, you need to sign with your wallet because that transaction is signed, it's confirmed that you created it and you are the only owner of that transaction. Then you post it. In this case, you don't need to send wallet. It doesn't have an extra parameter, only the transaction that we can see here. So we do arweave.transactions.post and we post the transaction and that's it. So let's see it in action. Let me start it. And here I need to start our local. So our local, Arweave.js, and many of the other tools, for example, ARDB and things like that. We use Node.js and NPM. So in this case, we can just run a local, our local by doing npx, by using npx. Okay, perfect. So our local server started. Let me refresh the page. Let me log out. Okay, so in this case, we need to log in. Here we can see the Arconnect little tool, little pop-up, and here we see the little icon because I have that extension installed. So they ask me permissions. I accept. We will see right after this, we will see the Arconnect, how it works. It's really, really simple. As soon as you have Arweave.js, you have some extra things added on top of the window. So you have some event listeners and few things like that, that in fact Arconnect uses to connect to the Arweave.js library. So you could also create your own browser extension or your own, I don't know, Node.js extension, something like that, that will interact with wallets and that could use that in this case. Well, in this case, it's only for the browser because it's on top of window. But yeah, you could add something else on top of it. Okay, so it's created. Let me add something here. As you can see, it's doing a few interactions and it was mined. So let me grab the ID here. Depending on the case of your project, you can show the ID, for example, here for people to be able to access it right away. But in many cases, you just create the transaction and then you show it here, maybe with a little TXID icon that people can click and check it out on the block explorer called view block or something else. But yeah, you don't need to show it every single time. And as you can see, I'm calling app name and it's using a few other tags that Arconnect added to it. So if I go here to my local host, 1984, and the transaction ID I just grabbed, you can see the content, ASDF, which is what I just sent here. Okay, so let's see Arconnect really, really fast. So I'm not going to explain a lot about Arconnect, but you can see here, arconnect.io. They have the documentation which is really, really simple to follow. And you can also grab the code I have right now here. I'm going to share it in the chat later. So you can just go and grab the content or just check it out yourself after this call. So Arconnect, I created a new file here called account.ts, which I make reference to Arconnect. So I did an npm install Arconnect, but it's only used for references. It doesn't add anything anything to your code, anything extra. It's just so we don't get errors while we are checking windows.arweave wallet, for example, which is one of the things that are added as soon as you have Arweave.js installed. The other one is connect. So here, the connect is when you click login, and it was the little pop-up that appeared when I clicked login here. So I was able to log in, and you need to send a few parameters that which are the rules or the permissions that we want to give someone. So here I asked for access permission and for signed transaction permissions, and I set the name of my project, which is to-do list in this case. And then we can get the addresses that people have. You can get the main one, which is the active address, or you can also request for all the wallets. And then from there, you can have a little drop down, let's say, that people can use to select the wallet they want to use while doing transactions. Then we have the logout, and we have some JavaScript and some information to hide and show the content. So the button that was here, or the button that disappeared, and you have only a logout button here, like this. So it's very simple, just a few lines again. Can I move this? Yeah, let me move this here. Perfect. So yeah, let me show my package. What I have is ARDB, Arweave.js, and that's it. I have RConnect for references and dependencies, and a few other things for references only, and to build. And we have jQuery, and in this case, I was using Bootstrap. So as you can see, it's nothing. Like, it's really, really simple. It's nothing else. So, and let me talk really, really fast about ARDB. So when you grab content, thanks to the tags, so you need to remember to add tags, because if you don't add tags, you aren't able to just do a search on the permaweb. You will need to remember your transaction ID. Or you can just go inside of your wallet on view block on the block explorer, and then search in there to grab your transaction ID, the one that you needed. But thanks to tags, you can do queries on top of Arweave. And Arweave use GraphQL. So you need to learn GraphQL. You need to know how to query with GraphQL, which, if you know, it's already fine. You can just go with that if you want, or you can go with ARDB, which does the work for you. So for example, in this case, what I'm doing is I'm calling ARDB. I need to search for transactions by using the app name. App name, as we remember, it was a default. So we have the app name here. If not, you can do tag, tag, and use your custom tag. So name with the value that you want to have. In this case, let's say to-do list, something like that. So you can do that also. You can have multiple tags also by using tags. So you can just go and grab all the tags that you need. ARDB, RConnect, Arweave.js, all of these tools are open source. They are available on GitHub. So by doing a quick search, ARDB, or by just going from the GitHub page I'll be sharing here, and just going and checking the other files there, you will be able to find ARDB, RConnect, Arweave, and pretty much all the tools that we have on top of Arweave. And then we do a find, and then we get, then we get the list of transactions. Here I could limit it to just one. So you can have a limit, one, or you can have a limit of multiple transactions. In this case, we just want the list. By default, it will return only 10. The minimum it's 1, and the maximum is 100 that you can do in one batch. You can also do find all, which will allow you to go, and even if we have the limit of 100, it will go, and using the cursor, it will be able to grab all the content over and over until it finds everything. And then I do the same thing as I did here. I append to the list the content. So I grab everything, I get the transaction, then I get the content by doing arweave.api.get with a transaction ID. So that is the same thing as doing this. So the api.get will get you this, and then you send what you want, the endpoint that you want. For example, if you wanted to get, whoops, let me refresh. If you wanted to get the transaction information about that transaction, with which we do by doing tx, and then the transaction ID, you just have to do tx and the transaction ID here. And then we add that, we append that just like before. So that's why we are able to have ASDF here and keep doing many things in the to-do list. Okay, so that was it on how to build your first perma-web app, let's say. So going from Web 2.0 to going to Web 3.0.
Very good. Loads of questions. Do you want to? How do you want to do it? Do you want us to read them out? Do you want to read them out? Whatever's easiest.
Yeah. Did you guys grab a few of the questions? So it will be maybe easier. Wow. Yeah, we have many questions here.
Yeah, I don't know where to start. I'll read them out. I'll sort through. Okay. Did we do? Yeah, we did. Can you demo some products built on Arweave?
Show a few products built on Arweave?
Yeah.
Sure. Let me share my screen really fast.
It's okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so for example, the first one I'll go, it's community.xyz, which is the project I built. This one helps you build profit-sharing communities, which is a unique thing that we created on top of Arweave. Arweave, very similar to DAOs, but with profit-sharing capabilities on top of it. So let me go to one of the communities. Oh, I don't have it here. Let me go to the communities list then. In the meantime, let me show you another one, verto.exchange, which is the main place that people use to exchange their wallets. Oh, again, I don't have access here. Oh, okay, perfect. So you can see the latest transaction. So in this one, people are able to transfer the tokens they create. So a profit sharing community or a profit sharing token are two different things, but at the end, both have tokens on top of it. So you can use those tokens to transfer them out, to create your own token on top of Arweave. And then you can use Verto to be able to transfer tokens, to interact with those tokens, to sell them, to buy them. Okay. Another one, it's Arweave, which I think it's .io. Yeah. Okay. So Arweave is a desktop application which allows you to store data on top of Arweave in a way which is very, very similar to, let's say, Dropbox or to Google Drive or the other tools that are out there to be able to store your files forever, in this case, by paying only once. So you have all the files stored and you pay only once, and then they can go and just say, like they did, for example, on Google Photos, that it was free and now we need to pay to keep using the service. In this case, on our drive, if you deploy your content and it's stored there forever and you have, I don't know, many, many terabytes of files stored, they can go and say, oh, you know what? Now we are charging for the content that you have stored in there. You will be able to access it forever by using our drive or by using other tools that people will come up with that will be using the same structure, so the same tags as our drive uses. So yeah, these are a few of the things that you can find. Sorry, that you can find on top of Arweave.
Cool. Jacob asks, how do you deal with sensitive / illegal data being stored on Arweave?
Seb, do you want to take that one? Or do I go?
Yeah, I think we can do it together. So basically, if there's anything illegal that gets stored on Arweave, basically through content policies that the miners also adhere to. The miners, once something is validated as, okay, this is something that is improper, shouldn't be stored in Arweave, the miners can adhere to those content policies, they get updated, and then this is no longer replicated in the network. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that, Cedric.
Excellent.
No, yeah, that's pretty much it. I know we are working with a team, for example, in London, I think. Is it in London? Yes. That works with content against, for example, child pornography and things like that. So yeah, we are working with teams already that we are part of, and I guess with time we will be getting more and more of these things also coming up on Arweave.
I very much froze there.
Yes.
I think I'm back in time. Yeah, I think I am. That was lucky. Maybe not. Okay, cool. If George, am I audible?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank God. Right. So Damien asks, it's quite a basic one. If you store a video, where is it physically located? Isn't it very expensive to store stuff on a blockchain? So cost and where is it actually located? Maybe that's for Cedric.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was just sharing the link for the repo that I was just showing up. So you can guys go and just grab the content or see it by yourself. Okay, so where the content is stored. So yeah, it's just like other blockchains. So it's stored as a peer-to-peer. So for example, you as someone that has a computer on your home, you can go and be a miner and create a node. So the node grabs all the content or the content that you want to grab. For example, if you only have, I don't know, 100 gigabytes on your drive that you want to use for Arweave, you can do that. And you will be getting some random content in there from the entire blockchain. For sure, if you have the entire blockchain, which isn't that big right now, so you could grab the entire content of the permaweb and then be a distributor of that and be a miner, then you have more chances to earn a reward because how it works on Arweave is that we grab the content randomly when someone is mining. If you guys know about mining, I'm not so sure, but maybe a few of you know about mining. So yeah, compared to, for example, on Ethereum or on other platforms where the miner is executing proof of work, in this case, we are executing proof of work, but on top of that, we also have a verification that you have the block, one of the random blocks that are chosen. That's to ensure that even old content that is not accessible for, I don't know, a few years can still be accessible if you want to check it out in 3 years, let's say. So yeah, that's how it works. It's distributed between peers, between people that love the project, want to earn tokens, so AR, and they want to use their computer, their internet to share those files.
Awesome. Next question. Let me find it. We answered that one. What sort of things would you like to see built on Arweave?
Okay, Seb, I think you had a few examples already before.
Yeah, for sure. We have recently presented 25 ideas that we'd like to see built on Arweave. So why don't you let me grab that YouTube link of that session, and I'll just post it here. It's much better than if I try to explain all of them right now in this call.
Very good. Cool, that will appear in chat. Next thing, how do I become an Arweave miner?
Yeah, a miner, it's by going to arweave.org. So you can go to arweave.org, and then we have multiple instructions, multiple tutorials on how to be a builder, how to build on top of Arweave, and also how to be a miner, how to get started. So you will need to have a mining the mining code running on your computer. So you can find it on arweave.org.
Perfect. Next one is, are there any languages for which SDKs are missing?
Yeah, in fact, the SDK, as I mentioned before, the one that's been maintained the most is for JavaScript. I know that, for example, Go has something, I think it's called Argo or something like that. Well, Go has one library available created by a community member. And I know PHP had one because many people were using it to store WordPress content on top of Arweave. And so keeping like a backup, let's say, of their data, their posts. But I know the PHP version isn't updated yet. So yeah, it's built by a community member, and community members can go and update it. And as a community member, you can go and create your own also by using the API, which I recommend a lot. Since it's always good to have many libraries and many SDKs on many languages. But yeah, for now, the most used one and the most active one, it's in JavaScript, TypeScript and JavaScript.
Cool. Next question is there an Arweave SDK for, I don't even know what this language is, COBOL?
No, I don't think there's one.
Orientated language. I did not know that existed.
Yeah, I don't think there's one SDK for Noble. No.
Cool. How fast is Arweave, and are there any layer 2 solutions?
It's extremely fast. So to load a web page, for example, oh yeah, someone shared Arweave apps. That's an old version of something new that's coming, created by another community. Arweave apps. I created that the first time I joined Arweave. There was a little hackathon, and I created that tool. From there, it got a few iterations on the UI, but the structure is pretty much the same one, which is using an older version of Arweave that wasn't using GraphQL. So it was a little bit slower, but GraphQL, it's extremely fast. You do a request, you wait, I don't know, maybe a second, and then you have everything. And as I was showing, for example, Verto.exchange, Community XYZ, even Arweave apps, pretty much all of those apps have the UI stored on top of the network. Something that it's still a little bit slow or slower compared to a normal web page. So for example, if you go to community, it will load pretty much as fast as any other web page that you find online. But what's a little bit slower is Smart with contracts, because they need to iterate and to change the state by going through every single transaction that happened. But that's something that it's already changing, and it will keep changing thanks to a community member that created a project called Kive. And they, in a way, it's like a caching system, which is in fact decentralized also. So that's pretty nice. And that store the latest state of the contracts. So you can just go and grab the latest one instead of iterating and grabbing every single transaction that happened to get to the latest state.
Very good. What data types can you send?
Okay, just to share, Seb just shared the link there for the ideas. So on the chat, and a content type, you can serve any content type that you want, but you need to remember that the tool or the client that you will be using, for example, in most cases, the browser, need to be able to serve that content. So for example, if I have a PSD file, you can store it on Arweave, but when the people will go to your transaction ID, it will just request them to download that file. So you will be able to download it, which makes sense. That's what you want. But if you are serving HTML, it will be served right away in the browser. But yeah, anything that you can think of can be stored.
Cool. Is there a file size limit?
There's no limit to file size. Right now, we have some limitations, but not on Arweave. The limitations are on JavaScript and Node.js. because of the file size that can be stored in a buffer. So it's 2 terabytes, for example, for 2 terabyte? No, I think 2 gigabytes, sorry. Yeah, I think it's 2 gigabyte, 2 gigabyte for the buffer on a 64-bit computer and 1 gigabyte on a 32.
And along the same lines, someone asked, could I do an attack where I theoretically spam the network with large files to slow it down?
Well, in fact, you could do attacks on gateways, which most of them have many different gateways running at the same time, and you get one randomly. So it reduces the attacks, and we have also tools on top of it to reduce the attacks. But yeah, you could do an attack, for example, on I don't know, arweave.net, let's say. Don't do it, but yeah, you could do it. But yeah, thanks to the way that Arweave works, which is completely decentralized, even if you turn down arweave.net, you still have, for example, other gateways that are running that people can use and can go and check the same content again that they were looking at on arweave.net.
Cool. What wallets work with Arweave?
So the wallet, as I was mentioning, Arweave is its own blockchain. So it doesn't, you cannot use an Ethereum, for example, wallet system or something like that. You need to use the Arweave wallets. The Arweave wallet, a normal wallet, is a simple JSON file that you grab, you download, and then you have that wallet. That JSON file have your private information, your private JSON key, and then you don't have to, like, you don't go and give that wallet, that JSON file, to someone else, because that's your own personal wallet. And then you can use tools like Arconnect, or you can use the old system, which is still very common, which is a little drag and drop on your project. Then you grab your JSON key file and you drop it on the page, and then with that, people can interact with your wallet.
Good. Does Arweave work with Ledger?
There's an integration with Ledger that I've seen on our Discord built by a community member, but I know it's not yet fully introduced. So it's a beta. I won't say like to store your real key files with it just yet.
Cool. Next question. How does Arweave compare to something like IPFS? Which is better?
Yeah, in fact, IPFS isn't better, and not because I'm working at Arweave, because IPFS is much slower if you want to grab a web page or an image, let's say. And the second thing is that we have an incentive on top of Arweave. So people will keep your content forever. While in IPFS, if you send your content, if your server goes down and nobody else has that IPFS file on their page because they don't need to keep it, why will they keep it if they don't get any rewards by doing that? So normally it's stored only on your computer, and then your computer, you turn it off, nobody can access it. On Arweave, it's stored forever. There's an incentive to keep storing that data forever by earning AR. So yeah, that's the main feature, the main difference. But other than that, you can use, like many are doing right now, it's using IPFS and Arweave at the same time. So you have your content on IPFS, which is free, and then you use something like IPFS to Arweave, which is a little tool that you send your CID, so your ID from IPFS, you send it there, and then it's pinned permanently on top of Arweave. So Arweave is able to be used as a permanent storage for your files, or you can permanently pin it from IPFS. So yeah.
Very good. What is the link to the Block Explorer?
Yeah, I sent it already. Block Explorer link, viewblock.io.
Cool. I heard about the Arweave accelerator. Could you tell me more?
Sure, I'll take that one. So Arweave routinely has a program called the Open Web Foundry. And the Open Web Foundry, we take any idea, we turn it into an MVP or an existing MVP, and we take it to market. And this we try to do in the span of 6 weeks' time. Right now we have one open and running, and we hope to see many applications come from Encode Club. In the past, we've had very successful applications. So yeah, just reach out. You can learn more about that right here.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's openwebfoundry.dev, OWF.
Cool.
I'm also going to share the link for people that are coming from IPFS. You can use ipfs2arweave.com. And in fact, it's completely free. It has been funded by the Arweave team. So you don't need to pay anything to pin your IPFS hashes.
Perfect. How many Arweave miners are there?
I don't know. I don't know exactly the amount of miners. There are many, many miners.
Yeah, there's many miners, and there's also mining pools, so it's always hard to tell at any specific amount of time.
Yeah.
Good. What were the most difficult? Oh, sorry.
But sufficient that it's all decentralized, so no worries about
that. What were the most difficult technical challenges in building Arweave? Asks Samson.
Well, I didn't build Arweave myself. I came in a little bit later. I built many of the tools that you guys might be using during the process of integrating with Arweave if you are going through the JavaScript path. But yeah, for the challenges, I bet they have been many along the way. But yeah, I won't be able to answer that question.
Fair enough. Any possibility of seeing a Swift library, e.g. iOS development from Arweave?
Oh, in fact, I think there's one. Let me check real quick. Swift. Arweave Swift. Yeah, someone built this.
Thank you. And
it seems to be up to date. So you can always join our Discord, and you will be able also to ask over there if there's a library for one of the languages that you are using, because probably there is, and you might find out who's the founder of that library, and even help him out if there's a few missing things from the latest update from Arweave 1 to Arweave transactions 2.
Perfect. Jeremy asks, what was the cache-like system called? I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, Kive. Yeah, for the caching, similar to caching. Let me find it. Kive. Kive.network is the website.
Oh, I've heard of that very much. And then this person asks, is it possible to limit the access of data to a specific address?
Yeah, you can limit it by encrypting your data. So instead of sharing your data publicly, you can just encrypt your data with your wallet key, which is possible to do by using normal, for example, by using crypto in Node.js, or by using other tools, other crypto tools, depending on your language. And then you use that, you encrypt your data, and then when it's stored, only that wallet is able to access it. We, in fact, did something like that some time ago just to showcase how it was possible by using a mailing system. So you were able to interact with someone else, send them messages, and only 2 people were able to read them, not even us, or not even the peer-to-peers, the nodes that are storing the data. They can't really read it because it's encrypted. So yeah, you can do that.
Perfect. Well, I think that takes us to the end of our questions. I don't know if anyone has any others they want to ask. Well, we have Seb and Cedric here. In any event, you can find them on our Discord under the Encode Club Hack Africa category, and I believe there is a dedicated Arweave challenge there. In the meantime, Seb and Cedric, thank you so much for both your time this evening and for great answers and a great introduction to Arweave. And for the hackers, know that Arweave is well, certainly the project we have the longest history with of the projects in this hackathon, and also I think we've seen probably the most success on projects building on Arweave. So I do hope you take up their challenges, build great things, and I know the team provide a lot of fantastic support. In the meantime, Seb and Cedric, thank you so much, and thank you for being here this evening, really.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you for inviting us, and good luck, everyone.
Perfect. Awesome. Guys, this will be on, guys and girls, this will be on YouTube tomorrow and on the Medium. And we'll, I don't think there are any slides, so the YouTube is what to refer to. In the meantime, thanks all. Have a good evening. See you on Discord and speak soon.